Hey everybody, welcome back.
Welcome.
How you doing, Lucy?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. We got this new stuff going on.
I know it's exciting.
Yeah, we are at episode 7 now. We're recording.
Yes.
So super cool. And we're going to talk about some amazing things.
We are. But first,
yes.
Are we going to do a challenge check-in?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay.
How you doing?
Pretty good. I mean, we've had a lot of challenges we
Yes.
put out there. So
Yes.
first, I do cold shower like every day.
Yes. I'm working up to my 10-second.
That's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, baby steps, 1% better every day.
You're not my favorite person in those 10 seconds.
Discipline, right? Let's see. What else do we got? We got our gratitude. You know, I started doing that, just reaching out to people, but I need to be more consistent.
That's still my favorite one.
With just
And
pushing out a
I'm doing
gratitude
really
text.
well with that one. So,
Yes, that's awesome. I need to do better. And
I
just
think
need to do
even if you just make an effort to send one thing to someone, I haven't necessarily held myself restricted to one person every single day. I've just been making an effort to send something. And I'm counting that as success because it's intentional. And so I think as long as you're striving for that, right? It's that 1% better. We're not
Right.
looking for perfection. There's no expectation of that. But I think you can count that. If you're making that effort and sending a couple a week, even if it's to different people every time,
Yep.
that counts.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, so I'll keep working on that. Another one that I like, I've actually had a few discussions with people, is just the limiting mindset. We talked about getting
Yes.
rid of that always or never.
Yes.
And I've had conversations with people, and I'm like, you got to get that out of there and avoid that always or never, and then replace it with something else. And
Love it.
I had a discussion with someone, pointed out, like, no, look, you do this stuff.
Yeah.
You are good at this. And so you got to show some empathy to yourself, and then you can remove that always and never and put in there, well, hey, sometimes I do this pretty good, you
Yeah.
know, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. What's your why?
Yep.
We found our why. I think we found ours.
We found ours. Yes. We're done.
right here.
Done.
But yeah, hopefully others are finding their why and why they want to, elevate their existence, right?
Yes.
Growth mindset. What was some of our other ones? So I think we've hit just about all of them.
We hit them all. Yes.
Yeah.
So even just staying in that state of mind where I'm being mindful of them,
mm-hmm.
I'm finding myself doing better, just thinking on them and catching behaviors that I want to change. So
yeah,
even
for
if
sure.
you don't nail it all the time, just having them on the forefront of your mind and trying to implement them into your day-to-day routines, they'll make changes. So It's been good.
Yep. Like I said, I think I shared at one podcast, I already caught myself, with that negative, I guess, limiting mindset, we'll
Right,
say, when I
right.
was talking about speaking a language. I'm still working on which
language
and what app and whatever, but I'm working on it. It might end up just being Spanish, but
I think that's the perfect one.
and I mean, it's useful for me
Yes.
right now and everything like that. So,
Yes.
So it could be cool, but we shall see.
All right. Well, I'm excited to check in next week and
Yes.
see where things are at.
Yes.
What are we
So
talking about today?
This week we are talking about we're going to start talking about the 4 agreements.
It's one of my favorite books.
Yes. And when we talk about this, we are talking about Don Miguel Ruiz.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And his book, The 4 Agreements. And it's really cool. I think if you can implement these things, it can be life-changing. So
I can testify that it's life-changing.
yes. And I think they're kind of simple concepts when you say them, but they get deep when you really start to dive in there and kind of tear them apart and start to apply them to your life. So that's what we're kind of going to do on this episode, is to start diving into them.
Right. One at a time.
One at a time. We're going to hit the first one on this first episode.
Yes.
So, Lucy,
Agreement,
what's the first one?
Agreement 1. Let me put my reading glasses on here.
Yes.
So the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. And he says it's the most important agreement, and it's also the most difficult agreement. So we were talking a little earlier about the word impeccable, and you had some thoughts on that. He dives into this a little bit because there might be some misconceptions about what that word actually means and what this agreement is all about. So before we break the agreement down too much, do you want to share your thoughts on the word impeccable?
Yeah, let's talk words, because words mean things, as he will point out.
Yes.
Right? And that is actually a saying we used when I was in the military and flying, and words mean things.
Words mean things.
And so in this case, impeccable. So when I first read this, my thoughts went to, I have to be, 1,000% honest, trustworthy. And you want to be as much as you can, but that's not necessarily what he's talking about. He goes on to break down impeccable as being, in a religious or moral sense, like without sin. And he explains like the Latin meaning of it all, and it means without sin. But he goes on to say that it's more of being impeccable is not going against yourself. When you are impeccable, you take responsibility for your actions, but you do not judge or blame yourself. And then he goes on to say, being impeccable with your word is not using the word against yourself. So he goes on to say, if you're out in the street and, someone says, or I guess you could do it yourself, and you yell at somebody like, hey, you're stupid, or whatever, that's more of using the word against yourself, because it just turns it on you, because then you make that person mad, and then they lash out at you, and they don't like you and everything. They get angry and everything, and then you get angry. So he goes on to say, if I love myself, I will express that love in my interactions with you, and then I'm being impeccable with the word, because that action will produce a reaction. And so if I love you, then you love me. If I insult you, you will insult me. If I have gratitude, like we talked about, for you, you will have gratitude for me. If I'm selfish, you'll be, if I'm selfish with you, you'll be selfish with me. If I use my word to put a spell on you, he says, you are going to put a spell on me. And I think he talks about that with spell, and that and poison, and you're kind of spewing that with the word.
Yep.
But impeccable, instead of meaning that I have to be perfect in this without sin and maybe a moral or religious sense, he's more talking about not using your word against yourself, even when you might yell across the street and tell someone
another person
they're stupid.
Yeah.
That's just coming right back to you. So that is what he means when he's talking impeccable. And I thought that was just like super deep. And
yes.
I was like, whoa, this is not really what I was thinking. But then it makes you really think that, hey, you're only...
Right. It runs so much deeper than maybe what it would appear to be on the surface.
Yes.
So I wanted to just share a couple thoughts straight from the book on this concept, just because he does acknowledge that it's the hardest of the agreements. And I just felt like the way he articulated it was perfect, and I don't want to butcher that. So I'm going to share some of these thoughts. So let's see. So be impeccable with your word. So he says your word is the power that you have to create.
And it's like, wait, what? Think about that.
I know. Have you
that
ever?
Is deep.
That is so deep, but it's so true, right? Your word is the power that you have to create. Through the word, you express your creative power. It is through the word that you manifest everything. So that definition that you gave of impeccable, right? What I spew comes back to me, right? That's part of manifesting. The word is a force. It is the power you have to express and communicate, to think, and thereby to create the events in your life. So he says, but like a sword with two edges, your word can create the most beautiful dream, or your word can destroy everything around you. One edge is the misuse of the word, which creates a living hell. The other edge is the impeccability of the word, which will only create beauty, love, and heaven on earth. So depending upon how it is used, the word can set you free or it can enslave you even more than you know. So he talks a little bit about the power of the word, right? And he uses an example from history, right? The word is so powerful that one word can change a life or destroy the lives of millions of people. Some years ago, one man in Germany, by the use of the word, manipulated a whole country of intelligent people, and he led them into a world war with just the power of the word.
Yeah, that's deep when you start thinking about that.
Oh my gosh.
So then think about that in your daily interactions and with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've talked about growth mindset, limiting mindset, all of those things. You say it,
yes,
and it just
right.
creates. I think that's what's so insane when I read that was the word creates.
The word creates, and there's so much evidence of it. If you take a minute and just reflect on your own life. I remember a couple years ago during COVID, I, like many, picked up roller skates, and I loved that as a child. It was really good. But I'm at the roller rink as a middle-aged woman, and I thought, I'm going to skate backwards. And I'm practicing that and thought, because of my age, if I fall, I'll likely really do some serious damage to my tailbone.
You want to break a hip.
What do you think happened?
You fell?
I fell and landed right on my tailbone.
Oh.
And I thankfully I recovered, and I had a speedy recovery. But I knew the minute I said it, I didn't even say it out loud. I just thought it. Just, thinking about what might happen if I fall, just given my age, just thinking about all of these things, right? It was all fear-based, but be careful the words you speak. And I cannot tell you how many times I've thought about that moment and wished that I had never entertained the idea that I might fall and land on my tailbone. Because I'm absolutely convinced if I hadn't had the thought, I wouldn't have fallen.
Yep. And
I've not fallen since. I went back.
All right.
I've got 2 pairs. So
nice.
I didn't give it up, but
growth mindset. 1% better.
1% better.
Right. But I love that in that you can apply it to your life. And I think we can apply it just in our daily interactions. He mentions a story. And it just really got me thinking. He mentions a story about a mom. She's working hard all day. Yep. Had a headache going home. Her daughter's just having a good old day, living her best life, dancing around, singing. And it annoys the mom. The mom yells at the girl, stop singing it. You have an ugly voice or whatever. And that she took that opinion and internalized that.
Right.
The word. And she's like, well, my mom told me that, so that must be a fact. And she quit singing.
It also affected her ability to even communicate with people at school. She became shy, withdrawn. It had a profound effect on her entire life from this one moment, this moment of fatigue.
Yep.
Right? Where her mom used the word unintentionally, but it became a weapon, and it had a profound, lifelong effect on this child.
So then it makes me think back about my life, and did I, how did my life, grow, change, all that stuff because I internalized somebody's word that they used like as a weapon. And then have I done that? And I think about like with my kids, and I'm like, I'm like, have I said things? And so now I'm like really conscious about, what I say, because it really has an effect. People will buy into your opinion or buy into that agreement. Like they told me this, so I am going to agree to it.
Right.
And just go with it. And then it becomes your reality.
Right.
So then I have another question, but we could talk forever about this, right? So how do you not accept that agreement of that person when they're using
the word against
you?
So I think that's part of the second agreement, which is to not take anything personally. So maybe
we will get there.
we'll get there.
We'll leave you hanging on this episode. Maybe you can
Yes.
think about it and decide how you as an individual are going to not take that weaponized word or that poison.
Right.
How
From
you're not
another
going to take
person.
that.
Yes.
So think about that.
So think about that. That's a good seed to
Okay.
plant.
Yes.
So I want to share, I actually have a few points. We'll call them highlights
Okay.
from this particular agreement. So kind of your key takeaways from this first agreement. So speak with integrity, say only what you mean, avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others, use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So those are the key takeaways from this agreement. And I can't encourage people enough to read the book themselves. It was life-changing for me. And I would read a little bit and then run like a little kid on Christmas morning into, my husband and say, "Oh my gosh, you got to listen to this. You got to listen to this."
It gets you thinking. It's
It
deep.
does. It does.
Good.
And you can tell that I love it because I've highlighted so
Very
much.
highlighted and worn a little bit.
That's what I do with my books. I highlight books, but I think honestly, my favorite out of this whole agreement is your word is the power that you have to create. Your word creates. So maybe when you're thinking about your word and how you want to handle yourself throughout the day, you can ask yourself the question, what do I want to create today? What do I want to create with my word in my life or today or in the next hour?
Yep. It's deep.
Or what am I creating?
And hopefully you're not destroying anything.
Well, we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes.
Two-edged sword, right?
But I think if you really take a minute and reflect on the power of it,
because it's often the
your
only
filter might
interaction.
kick into overdrive.
Yeah, it's often the only interaction you have with people.
Yeah. And how often do we speak so quickly without giving it thought?
Yep.
Or say something and then say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that came out wrong."
Yep.
So 1% better. We're not going to be perfect, but I really like the way he speaks to it. I think it's a great way it's a lens. It's a good lens to use when you are calculating your thoughts and preparing to speak.
Yep. And then it can put you in that mindset, right? Because he mentions if you're putting out that good stuff, you love yourself,
right?
Too,
right.
And so I think we've talked about it before, that self-love, the self-awareness. You have to have that
Yes.
to put that good out there.
Yes.
And so,
yes, he says, with the impeccability of the word, you can transcend fear and live a different life. And you can speak love to yourself and to others.
Yep.
And it's the power to create.
And then it's in turn love to yourself, and then you just grow.
Yep.
So
love it.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
So I had a thought earlier, but how can we? What can we do to apply this? Like, is there something that we can do to make an actionable item to...
What about journaling?
Okay. How would that work? What do you think?
Well, I know for myself, I suggest journaling, but I think I do better at taking somewhat of a mental snapshot of the day. And I love how he says the word is your power to create. And so I think my takeaway from this is a reminder of that. And that when I speak, I'm going to take a second and remember that my word is the power to create. And what am I about to create? Am I creating something that's beautiful? Am I creating something that's going to elevate my existence and the existence of the other people I may be participating in conversation with, or not? And if it's not, then
I want to keep that to yourself.
Refrain. Right? It kind of comes back to that rule that we hear as a child: if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just think there's so much power in the way he phrases it, that your word is the power to create. So I'm going to ask myself, what am I creating?
So,
With this dialogue, what am I creating?
Yep. So have that pause moment.
The pause moment.
And just be like, okay, I'm about to speak. What am I going to create?
Yes.
Is it good? Is it bad? Is it growth? Is it, limiting? Like
Right.
what is it? What am
Right.
I about to create? Just take that second and just
So
be
should
like,
that be the
okay,
challenge? Pause and ask yourself, what are
What am I
you
going to create?
going to create with this language?
This language. I like it.
Okay.
I like it. So that's,
I like that much better than journaling.
yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't journal.
I just don't know where I'm going to find any
like
more
it.
time in
Yeah.
the evening to fit journaling in. I hope to.
Yeah.
It's on my down the line to do wish list.
Yeah. I don't, I guess I'm lazy. I don't like the writing. I'm like,
Yes.
oh, that takes forever. So maybe if I type it or like a text to talk thing, because that's generally how I like take notes or whatever. But journaling, I'm just never been good at it, but I've also never really wanted to. But then at the same time, I think I find other means.
Is that a limiting belief?
Well, here I'm coming back around.
All right.
Coming back around. So I find other ways to journal
Oh, there you go.
that are more effective for me. And I honestly think this is one way, just talking it out.
I
And
agree.
then you can listen to it again. I'm making, content for social media. That is a way to kind of journal your thoughts. I've created long video content as well in the past. And I've also written blogs. And that's a form of journaling.
Absolutely.
And I
think you've covered all the bases.
Right. And I did start blogging because I knew I didn't like writing and I didn't want to do it, but I wanted to get better.
Yeah.
And so I started blogging and writing a blog. Is it awesome? Meh. But at least I worked at something that I knew I needed to work on. And so I've gotten better. And I haven't actually written a blog in a minute, so maybe I should go do that again. But
All right.
but yeah, I think
Okay.
the journaling, or at least this method of let's pause for a second, and then is this going to create or destroy, basically?
I love
with
it.
our words.
Okay.
And so that is the challenge.
All right. Challenge
today.
accepted.
Okay. Yes. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you.
This is an awesome topic, awesome episode.
It's a great book. I can't recommend it enough. It's a quick read. You can get through it in a weekend.
Easy.
And it's one that you'll want to revisit a couple times throughout your life.
Yep. And implement those things.
Yeah,
So
I can't wait to discuss the other
it's
agreements.
awesome. Yes. Next episode.
Tune in.
We're
going to answer Lauren's question.
Yes.
Episode
yes,
8.
Episode 8.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for watching.
All right. Be good.
Listening.
We'll see you guys.
Take care.